This is Columbus Concerns, a public affairs presentation of North American Broadcasting. Here's your host, Mark News.
Good morning, and thanks so much for joining us today. On Columbus Concerns, we're going to take a look at security. First, we're going to talk about your personal security, especially if you're planning on taking a trip. There's been a lot of news recently about Americans being hurt overseas and how you can keep yourself safe, and our friend Kimberly Schwind from AAA is going to be here to talk about that. We're also going to talk about cybersecurity, U.S. cybersecurity, in a special report from our partners at Fox News. So security, our topic today on Columbus Concerns. We start off with Kimberly Schwind from AAA.
With recent reports and the headlines about attacks at popular tourist destinations and other situations happening in the United States and abroad, AAA is offering advice to travelers to make sure that they travel safe this summer regardless of where they're going. You know, the first thing is when you're booking a trip, you really need to do your homework. Talk with an experienced travel agent. They can help to educate you on any potential risks in certain destinations, regardless of where you're going. Whether it's an international destination or a domestic destination, emergency situations can happen. They happen anywhere. So it's really important that wherever you're traveling, even if it's close to home, you need to make sure that you're broadening your peripheral vision, staying aware about your personal security and surroundings, especially if you're in crowded areas like airports or shopping malls or train stations or markets. It's also a really good idea to always travel in a group, at least with one other person, and stay in groups and never let your guard down. A lot of people will go on vacation and kind of just let their guard down, throw caution to the wind, and that's not something that you want to be doing, especially if you are in an international destination or somewhere that has a travel advisory. So you really want to stay aware and stay travel safe wherever you're going. You always have to keep in mind that the decision to travel is a very personal one, and it has to be made by the individual. Everyone really needs to stay informed and remain alert when traveling. Again, whether it's close to home or at an international destination, there's really no difference. You really have to be aware no matter what. So there is some advice when you're traveling internationally. Make sure that when you're selecting an international destination that you check with the U.S. State Department's travel advisories for destination information. This actually sorts travel advisories by level. So a level 1 to a level 4, with a level 1 indicating that travelers should exercise normal precautions in that destination. Still be careful. But then a level 4 warns travelers not to travel to that location. Level 3 instructs travelers to maybe reconsider travel. A level 2 means to exercise increased caution. So these are updated frequently. It's a really good idea to look at this when you're booking your trip, and then also as the trip approaches, just to see if anything's changed in that destination. If you are visiting an area with an active travel advisory, make sure that you're following the State Department's recommendations, and again, really just use extra caution. Make sure that you have the proper documentation ahead of time, passports, visas, etc., whatever you need for that destination, and make 2 or 3 copies of these documents. Keep a copy with you, leave a copy at home with friends, and hide a copy in your locked luggage. It's always important to keep the actual passport in a safe in your hotel room when you get to your destination. You don't want to be carrying that around. Also, you might want to enroll in the U.S. State Department's Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, or STEP. So this makes it easier for the nearest embassy or consulate to contact a U.S. citizen if there is an emergency. It's also important to know where that U.S. embassy or consulate is before you go to the destination so that you can contact them in case of an emergency. Also, you might want to check with your travel agent about purchasing travel insurance. So make sure to review the policies carefully before purchasing, because not all policies are the same. So wherever you're traveling, theft and fraud can happen. So it's important to take steps to protect your wallet and your identity while you're on vacation. So travel experts warn you to, first of all, before you leave for vacation, contact your bank and make sure that they know the dates that you're going to be traveling and where you're going to be going. This will make sure that you can use your credit card and that you won't get any flags while you're on vacation. You also want to make sure that you have the emergency number for your credit card handy, just in case the card is lost or stolen. If the card is lost or stolen, you won't have the credit card to know the number on the back that you need to call. So you should write that down somewhere else and have that just in case. Also, make sure that you're using that hotel room safe to keep your valuables. And it's always a good idea to leave the expensive jewelry at home. Don't carry it with you. It's just an invitation to thieves. You might also want to invest in a radio frequency identification or RFID blocking wallet or purse or passport holder. So what happens is any credit cards, your driver's license, your passport, they have magnetic strips or chips that have the information on them. Thieves can actually purchase an RFID reader and scan your wallet or purse from up to 30 feet away and steal that information that is stored on your credit card, your driver's license, or your passport. So if you purchase an RFID blocking wallet or purse or passport holder, that's going to prevent thieves from scanning your cards and from stealing your information. Also just be smart. Never set your purse down beside you while you're eating. Keep it on your knee and consider purchasing a splash-proof bag that can be carried across the body. So really just taking steps to make sure that you are keeping yourself and your family members safe on vacation, just being aware, following your instincts, not going off alone at night. That can really go a long way to keeping you safe.
Welcome back to Securing America Cyber Threats. I'm Jessica Rosenthal. We could not conclude the hour without talking about the cyber risks facing our nation's infrastructure. Homeland Security designates 16 sectors as critical infrastructure. It includes the financial services sector, farming and agriculture, water, the chemical sector, transportation, energy, healthcare, dams. But some of those are very different from one another. The financial services sector does not need the same cybersecurity that the electrical grid needs, because things like the energy sector use industrial control systems. That's a technical term for things like the actual hardware used to operate the infrastructure.
Computers used to be about data. They used to be about files and emails and messages and pictures. Now they're controlling things. They're controlling your car, your thermostat, power plant.
Bruce Schneier is a security technologist and lecturer at the Harvard Kennedy School.
And when computers have this direct physical agency, security changes, because now hacks have effects on life and property.
The consequences are different because of that connectivity.
And that's the main point. The computers haven't changed. It's the same CPU, the same operating systems, probably the same applications, but the computers are now touching things that are critical. The power grid, airplanes, cars, financial networks. Everything is made of computers today.
In his mind, the top three systems that need protecting are the power grid, the financial systems, and telecommunications networks, as those three are crucial to making everything else work. The key to all of this, most critical infrastructure is owned and operated by private companies. Those companies do work with government regulators, and Homeland Security says they now have a branch within called Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
The fact that our critical infrastructure is in private hands is actually a challenge for security against nation states. Right? Because China versus your local power company just isn't a fair fight. And here we have national threats against our infrastructure, yet the way we deal with national threats, which is the military, the government, can't really be brought to bear for the critical infrastructure in private hands.
The Congressional Research Service last year found that reports of hackers targeting critical infrastructure are increasing. They cited intrusions on the systems of the Bowman Dam in New York by a group linked to Iran's Revolutionary Guard, and intrusions that targeted an electric company's networks attributed to North Korea. Aaron Bales is a cybersecurity consultant at Revolutionary Security. They provide cyber protections for companies using industrial control systems.
As far as I'm aware, there hasn't been anything publicly reported where a cybersecurity attack against a control system has caused significant damage or impact to anybody in our country. That being said, there is kind of a watershed moment that occurred in Ukraine in December of 2015, where the electric grid for a specific part of the country was turned off via remote attackers that had been compromised their network for several months, if not longer, and chose a date to go in and disable the ability for the local technicians to physically manage the power, open the circuits to intentionally deny power, as well as blocked the communication systems, people calling the utility to tell them what's wrong, blocking the phone circuits in such a way that nobody could communicate. Even within the organization itself, they couldn't pick up the phone and call somebody in a different building or a different area to tell them what was going on.
That was attributed to Russia. Bales says a couple of things are needed. One, we need more cybersecurity professionals who understand how computers interact with bridges, dams, and power grids. He says that is hard to find. And two, companies need to have backup systems, plans B and C ready to go. But he says cybersecurity is kind of tricky in this realm. In a typical cyber environment, you do maintenance, upkeep, update software patches throughout a system.
There's not the same manner to deliver patches to control systems. And in a lot of times, they don't get updated unless there is a functional issue that comes up that say a software patch is designed to fix. The cliche term of if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
He says the companies he works with are experiencing an increase of attacks using ransomware.
The user at the computer clicks on something or opens an email or interacts with a website, and malicious software, malware, gets onto that computer and begins encrypting the data that's on that computer. The goal is for the attacker, again, this is more of a financially driven thing. The attacker then puts contact information on the computers that they have compromised and say, hey, I've encrypted your system, send some value of cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, some sort of difficult to trace cryptocurrency. Send it to this address, and I will send you the key to decrypt your systems. And if you don't, the longer you wait, the higher the price goes up, basically holding a company's data hostage.
He says if the technology that operates a factory's assembly line or actual hardware is on the same system and it gets infected, the company's whole operation stops. Now, Bruce Schneier told me during our interview that a lot of what's happening doesn't constitute attacks, but they're intrusions by foreign government-backed hackers poking around in a system, sometimes even leaving some malware behind for later use.
I mean, just like during the Cold War, we would have exercises in Europe. We would map Eastern Europe. We would plan. We would get things ready. But I think countries are trying to tell us, just as we are trying to tell the other countries, we're in your systems. Mm-hmm. And honestly, my only hope is that we are in everybody else's systems just as much as they are in ours.
Right.
And if something happens, everybody doesn't work. Otherwise, it's going to be bad.
What in your mind is a worst case scenario attack, like on farming and ag versus like a water system or the transportation? I know you said your top three. Does it fall there? Like what is the worst case scenario? I don't want to,
the worst case scenario is an unimaginable movie plot that involves zombies and aliens and sunspots and everything happening at once, and we all die. Worst case scenarios tend to lead to sloppy thinking. So yes, we can imagine what I call the movie plot threat.
But what's the medium worst scenario instead of worst case? What should we be preparing for and trying to deter?
So we should be trying to deter attacks against our infrastructure. And they could be like the Russian attacks against the Ukraine, shutting off a power plant. They could be like the U.S. attacks against Iran, shutting down nuclear preparatory systems. They could be attacks like North Korea against the United States, going against Sony Pictures. They could be larger. They could likely be when hostilities are increased. I mean, these are things we think about as tools during warfare. Okay. You can imagine Iran, who's annoyed at something else, doing a little thing, because this is a way they have military power where they don't in some other way. So imagine There's a U.S. Invasion of Iran for whatever reason, and as part of that, part of the retaliation, there's an attack against our infrastructure. Something that says, hey, U.S., you might want to reconsider because we have more power than you think.
It sounds like you're not a fan of hyperbole, but the words cyber war seem like a real possibility.
If there is real war, it will have a cyber component. Right? It is inconceivable that there would be a war without there being cyber attacks in the 21st century.
I'm Jessica Rosenthal. Thank you for joining us.
This has been Securing America, Cyber Threats on Fox News.
Thanks for listening to Columbus Concerns, a public affairs presentation of North American Broadcasting. You can send questions or comments about today's show to Columbus Concerns in care of this station, 1458 Dublin Road, Columbus 43215. Or email us at columbusconcerns@napcomedia.com.
Shortness of breath, patients confused, temp 102. He just had an infection. What's going on?
He's becoming septic.
Antibiotics started. Bed ready. Let's move him.
Infections can lead to a deadly chain reaction in your body called sepsis. Very quickly, sepsis can cause tissue damage, organ failure, and even death. If you know the risks, can spot the symptoms, and act fast, then you can get ahead of sepsis. Learn more at cdc.gov/sepsis.
Fox Bits, your insider's cheat code to gaming. I'm Eamon Dignam. New courses in your high school revolving around gaming. Mason Molyneux says that's the future.
The course was initially written to address social and emotional character development. There's some aspects of STEM in there. There's also college and career readiness skills built in.
He's the CEO and co-founder of the High School Esports League, HSEL. It's called Gaming Concepts Course, and it's going to teach communication, leadership, and health.
They have team-based ones where they'll have somebody play the game, somebody's analyzing, somebody's watching. So in that way, it kind of builds that critical thinking outside of actually playing the game.
He says right now 15 schools have been approved for the program, but another 900 are awaiting approval. That's Fox Bits for Fox News.
I'm Hank Weinblum, whistling in the wind with your word of the week. Birds do it. Trains do it. Referees. Taxi hailers. School crossing guards. Prisoners of war in the movies. And sometimes a government official does it to warn about possible wrongdoing.
The identity of the whistleblower is unknown.
The new whistleblower complaint may further stress the relationship between the intelligence community and the administration.
Whistleblower as a term first surfaced in the late 19th century, a reference to a police officer. But it's believed that consumer advocate Ralph Nader first used it to refer to sounding the alert about wrongdoing. Nader was said to prefer whistleblower to more negative words like snitch or informant.
Ridiculous story. It's a partisan whistleblower.
Time's up on this word of the week. I'm Hank Weinblum, Fox News.